Ladies and gents, I think it's time to admit the hard truth that we don't want to. Consoles are dying. Why buy a console these days? Why buy them, right? This generation has been completely lackluster for most people. You go online, you see that all over the place. We are now seeing that prices are rising in other parts of the world for current gen consoles, especially here in Japan. It is now raising a extra 20%, and it's not looking good. The Xbox platform is just basically going everywhere into a third party, and now we see rumors that the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be reaching up to $800. We see rumors that the Switch 2/Switch Pro is going to be like $500-$600. It is an absolute mess right now. And yes, I already know what you're saying. You're saying rumors, Talon, reel it back there, buddy. You need to just stop and wait till actual confirmation. But if this is the trends that we are seeing with current gen consoles right now, what the F? If we look at this particular article that I'm looking to hear on screen right now, it says after its launch in 2020, the cost of the PS5 disc version has increased a total of 60%, and the PS5 digital has increased a total of 82.5% in Japan. Now, granted, this is in Japan. I get it. Weekend, the whole line, but we're going to keep going so we can continue to talk about this. Sony cites a challenging external environment, including fluctuations in the global economy. If you know anything about global economies that happened over the last few weeks, you know exactly why this is happening. For the reason behind the 3 price increases, Japan is on the extreme end, but other markets have seen 1 or 2 price increases too. If I remember correctly, I think Brazil saw a price increase, which is definitely not good. Which is unique for console hardware. The weekend yen against the dollar is certain one reason. In 2020, the PS5 launched for what was the equivalent of $480. Today, that would equal about $345 with everything right there. Hence, the price increases to what it essentially is, $550. Another factor is likely the crackdown on exports of Japanese consoles to other markets, especially China. If you guys don't know what that's supposed to be referencing to, Black Myth Wukong has seen a huge increase in PlayStation 5 sales over in China, and again, with how popular Black Myth Wukong is, that would make total sense as well. It continues on saying, Sony is looking to normalize prices globally to avoid selling a high quality of units under production costs in a single market. This will, of course, impact gamers in Japan. In the short term, there will be a surge in purchases to avoid the price hike effective September 2nd. I can tell you right now, it is impossible to find anything online or in stores when it comes to PlayStation 5s, controllers, other accessories, you name it. I cannot find them anywhere, and I just happen to be getting stick drift on my first console ever. Terrible timing. Anyway, we continue on by saying, in the medium to long term, HD console gaming is becoming more unaffordable, and the PlayStation 5 Pro will no doubt cost more. It is also worth noting that this will likely pass the successor to the Nintendo Switch price in Japan too, as it's unlikely Nintendo will be able to keep the price as low as the original Switch was at launch. Oh boy, I've got some thoughts, but I think this just goes back to just this generation in general, right? From the moment this generation launched with all of the scalping and everything, to prices not going down because companies have to see that line go up regardless, instead of realizing realistically that things were going to go down a little bit and then eventually go back up to normalize. No, they have to obviously just keep the line going straight up. We always know that's basic. Corporations and companies and all that stuff. We've known that. Or if you've taken any basic economics class, or even if you haven't and you've learned anything from basic schooling, you should know this. Just again, basic logic here. But just what does this mean going forward, right? Because I feel like every console generation ever since probably the GameCube, at least that I can personally remember. I wasn't paying attention to this stuff when I was 7 or 8 years old. But ever since like the GameCube days up until the end of the PS4 and the Xbox One, like prices went down over time for the console, and then eventually when the new one came out, that one was some brand new price because obviously the old one was not going to be the big thing anymore or anything like that. Now we have seen prices increase for all areas of the world. I think even the US did see one small increase. It wasn't huge or anything, but they did see one small increase for the consoles. I could be wrong on that. But then obviously a bunch of other countries around the world, including Japan, Brazil, and other areas, have been seeing prices increase, right? And obviously we've seen that with game price increases and all that. So it really, obviously it boggles my mind. I get it on one point. Companies, I get that, but it still boggles my mind that this is still happening. And the fact that if I had to take a wild guess right now, I'm going to say that the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is still rumored to be coming out either this year or at the very beginning of next year, like January next year, I think that thing is probably going to cost around $650 US to $700. And if it is that, it is basically going to be the equivalent of $1,000 in yen here in Japan. And I can tell you right now, nobody here in Japan is going to buy that. I'm not even buying that. Forget that shit. And if the Switch now, with these rumors about the Switch increasing in pricing as well with the Switch 2, and there's rumors saying between $400 to $500, oh boy, like, damn. Joining me as always though is Lemon and Little Bobby. Bobby, I want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on all this stuff? Do you feel like this is, I know the intro statement of saying consoles are dead and all that stuff and not needed is a little extreme to some, but damn, this hurts. This hurts to see. This really does. I want your raw thoughts and opinions right now. Go.
Consoles are not dead. I hate to break it to everybody. Like, there's this big argument and this big push right now for everybody to move to PC. Like, PC, you can build a PC that beats a PS5 for $500, same thing, blah, blah. You're not accounting for the fact that people are fucking lazy. You know, they're just lazy. Like, think about like this, right? How many people buy like a Samsung, whatever, Galaxy or whatever they're called now, versus an iPhone, right? iPhones are huge. And why is that? Because they're easy and they're like idiot proof, right? You can do so much more on one of those Samsung Galaxies. You could set up, like, they have a better camera. You could set up, like, side load shit through it. You know, you could do all this shit that you can't do on an iPhone and, like, really make it your piece of hardware. But that takes work. So people go, like, I'm just going to buy my iPhone and let them, like, use their weird iPhone AI to pretty up my pictures. Like, I don't need a good camera because the AI will do it for me. I don't have to think about it. I just take a picture and it makes me and my friends look good, or looks whatever I'm shooting look good. There's always going to be a market for the simplicity of consoles. Like, I hate to break that to anybody. I don't know where this like don't get me wrong, dude. I've been gaming on PC for like 16 years. You know, I've been on PC forever. I love PC. I love the platform, like how much you could do with it. I use PC and Steam Deck more than my PS5 and my Switch, right?
Right.
But the fact that, like, you know, I have my Steam Deck is not lost on me that's effectively a console. It's like a plug and play. You just download your games and play them. And yeah, you can kind of mess with the settings and stuff a little more, but it just generally, you know, it's the console experience for PC gamers. And I have another friend who bought a Steam Deck and plays way more games now because of his Steam Deck versus, you know, he only played on PC before. People like simple things and they will pay for them. I do not think a PS5 Pro should be $800. Like, good Lord, like $650 is all you're going to get from me probably. Outside of that, I'll be like, can't justify. Switch, I'll pay $500 for it because IP. I've said that like 1,000 times. IP.
And the Nintendo IP is obviously very strong. Like, I get that. I definitely do get that.
Yeah, and if I already have a PS5, like, I don't need a PS5 Pro because I can already get that IP, right?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I've seen this sentiment a lot recently, and like I love PC gaming, but I also think that people just, you know, a lot of it comes from like Xbox fans who, you know, they're trying to pivot to like, well, Microsoft is PC too, bro. So, you know, like, just because the Xbox is kind of going under, like, they're not selling and they're putting their games everywhere, so there's no real reason to own the hardware. Like, we're still PC too, so everyone just build a PC. To really get a good gaming experience, like, you really need, like, you know, you're spending at least a grand.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Lemon? Like, you're spending at least $1,000 on a PC that you were getting a really good experience on.
Minimum.
Yeah,
minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
I'm not even buying laptops. Just laptops, just a bummer on the house with for less than $1,000 at this point. So,
I mean, if you look at PC prices right now, if you go and look at, like, because again, if I'm not talking 1080 60, right? A PC's been able to hit that for years, right? Let's bump this up a little bit. Let's say 1440p across all major games right now, 60 FPS to 90 FPS, give or take, right? You're looking, if you want to build a PC, you're looking around $1,500, maybe $2,000 if you really want to go and get some more expensive aesthetics, right? You know, I want the white RGB, you know, with the white GPU, that type of stuff, right? But I would say $1,500 right now is like it's not like the minimum PC you can buy. You can obviously buy a PC for very cheap and everything like that. But if you want, like, you know, something to kind of future-proof yourself and not be, you know, oh, I can play 1080 60 for like the next year and then I've got to upgrade, you're looking at least $1,500 plus, I would say, personally.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like if you're really, I think, and I could be wrong, aside from obviously Steam and those platforms being obviously awesome and everything, but if you're buying a PC just to barely scrape and get 720p 60, like honestly, just buy a console at that point. Like I really don't see the point, right? Like you can still download Steam on a laptop and get your library going with Steam sales and everything, and then eventually when you do get that big beefy PC or a semi beefy PC, then you just be like, oh, I've already got the games because I got everything on Steam already, right? Because I like,
why would you just buy a Steam Deck though?
Right, or you can do that exactly too. Yeah, you
easily costs as much as a PlayStation, and you can buy Steam games for
exactly.
it.
Yeah, you easily could do that, right? I mean,
that does 720.
Right. So like in especially in other countries, like a PC is not like as popular as PC gaming is becoming, especially even in a country like Japan, where Japan for a while, like PC was not the thing, right? It was console day and day, right? That's just how it was. But PC did start to become more and more popular, but now you're not seeing it. But now it's all of a sudden stopped essentially because the prices are still just out of control, right? Like everyone always talks about AMD being the cheaper, better version essentially, or the better performance to dollar ratio essentially, right? Not necessarily in other countries. Here in Japan, it's actually more beneficial for me, I'd say 90% of the time, to go buy an Intel CPU, which is weird, especially with the whole 13th gen, 14th gen nonsense that's going on right now. I don't want to touch that stuff, right? Like I was actually considering just going with Intel because everywhere I looked, Amazon, local PC stores, you name it, secondhand markets, because I know what to look for and everything, it didn't matter. Like I was just like, all right, I might as well just go get an Intel. Like I remember seeing this deal at a local PC store. I could get like a motherboard and I could get i7 14700K or whatever for the equivalent, quote unquote, for like, I think it was like $400, maybe $500 or something like that. And I was like, yes, this is looking great and everything. And then the moment like everything stopped here and prices started to increase again in terms of the PC parts. And then obviously we saw everything happening with the high-end 13, 14 gen CPUs. I was just like, okay, well, that's not happening. It's not going to happen and everything, right? And actually, Bobby, when you said that, PlayStation 5 Pro, $800, like that should never happen or anything like that, I typed that into a yen converter, again, Japan, Sony, Sony not caring about Japan anymore, essentially. In a perfect world, $100 usually should be the equivalent to 10,000 yen. Essentially, okay, we say ichiman in Japanese. Okay, all you basically do is you take the Japanese yen, you take the decimal point, and you bring it over to the left 2 times. That's how you generally could calculate the yen to the dollar. Super easy, right? So if something, for example, was 5,000 yen, bring it over twice, that's $50, right? Very basic, okay? So, but if you take $800, right, $800 US, and so you take the decimal point in reverse, you go to the right, that would be 80,000 yen, right? That should be perfectly that's normal right there. Guess how much it is though, if with the current yen right now, how much it would be? It would be almost $1,200 for a PS5 Pro. And I'm looking at that going, hell to the no. Damn, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And I get that Sony and PlayStation have always sold consoles at a loss. All the big money's in their subscription services, their online purchases, all that stuff. I get that, right? But it's just like, God, like where is this current console generation going right now? It baffles my mind. Especially when you then start to, again, if we go back to the sentiment that we've seen ever since this launch of these current gen consoles, everyone feeling kind of very underwhelmed and everything. Always seeing the headlines about, oh, this game's gonna run 30 FPS. I mean, we saw this back with Redfall, we saw it with Starfield, we saw it now with Avowed coming out. We've seen it with most majority games, it feels like, right? Oh, we can hit 30. It's like, seriously? Right? And again, I get it. Lemon, you and I have talked about this a bunch where instead of going from 1080 to 1440, we jumped straight to 4K last gen and trying to throw in all these extra visual effects and everything and things like UE5 engine, just totally, killing performance and everything. Like I get why it's happening. I get why 30 is the target for a lot of these. It still just sucks that in 2024, we can't even hit 60 the majority. And especially when we see tweets like this, like Bobby sent me from Del Walker, who is a developer himself. He's made games on consoles and everything. He even made this tweet that went a little viral saying, I wish the Series S never existed, man. So annoying to optimize for that console. I expect we'll unfortunately see more game launches skip by Xbox in the future. This is in everything going with how Black Myth Wukong has skipped, quote unquote, skipped the Xbox, even though they're trying to deal with, I guess, a memory leak right now in either the X or the S. I'm not really sure about that. But we saw this with Baldur's Gate, where they had to get special permission because of the split screen on the S again. And then he even makes a comment right down below here saying, because everyone's trying to attack the tweet and everything. He goes, no need to get triggered by my personal experience. I just do not like having to optimize current gen games for that console, and I wish it never existed. The Xbox Series X is an amazing piece of hardware, though. Fantastic console. So, all this stuff just stacking on top of each other for their current gen right now, just it's annoying to say the least. And I can tell you right now, as someone who does live in Japan, who unfortunately lives off of the yen right now, like when the Switch 2 gets announced in the future, so we're expecting that sometime in either spring of 2025 is what we're expecting, right? Both my wife and I, because unfortunately Japan goes by this kind of lottery system in order to reserve a console, we are going to be going on to every online store that we possibly can. We're going in person to different stores and putting it under different names so that we can even have a shot at trying to get one Switch 2 or whatever like that. I know Nintendo has come out by saying, no, we're going to make sure we have plenty and everything. No, it doesn't matter. You could delay a console that's technically finished for another year trying to make more and more. It doesn't matter. They're still going to get bought up by bots and everything. With the scalping and everything. And then not to mention the fact that now there's supposedly some kind of chip shortage again. Like, it just... I don't know. Lemon, any thoughts?
There's so many points I wanted to make, but I didn't want to interrupt because we were in such a rant.
I know I was. I know this feels like a rant.
I was like, I just feel like I just want to interject, but like, nah, let him cook.
Go.
Let him
go.
cook.
I'm done. I gotta cool down a bit here.
First, economics.
I know.
The PlayStation 5 is going to go up in price because the market allows for it. I do not think the PS5 or any console this generation, well, we can include Switch in this equation for now, will go down in price. Even Microsoft's like, F it. We don't need to because we're trying to torpedo this ship. But I digress. If the market supports the price, they should increase the price, or at the very minimum, keep it the same. There's no reason to decrease it. The reason why consoles in the past decreased is because the sales were decreasing, but we're seeing that's not really happening. Or at the very minimum, the board doesn't think it's happening, so they're going to keep the price at the same price, or if not, increase it to increase revenue. And I'm, full disclosure, not a shareholder in Sony. I do not care, but I do like seeing the market go up, and my wallet gets fatter because of such things. I do. So I did want to kind of point out. I'll be the voice of kind of. I'll be the guy people argue out in the chat and in the comments and call me out, much like my Nomura comments. I get the developers' frustrations about the Series S. However, I think more now than probably any time in the last 20 years, optimization is critical, because we're now looking at, we brought up the Steam Deck. That is a very kind of gutless device relative to, quote unquote current gen, right? Mm-hmm. The Switch, very gutless, and I think it's a fair assessment to make that the Switch 2 might be on the level of a Series S. I don't think that's too crazy of a statement to make. And so that whole, the Series S is really kind of screwing up these poor developers' days. Well, I mean, the Switch 2 is also going to come around. I don't think it's going to be on par with the PS5 or a Series X. So they're going to have to deal with optimizations. Sure, they might not put the game on the Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it, but that's money on the table. So, and Sony themselves have already kind of made it clear that they want the money. That's why all their major games have been going to the PS4. We're finally starting to see that, stop. But I think as a whole, the developer community just needs to accept you need to support huge gaps in,
Well, I think ever since 2023, like I'm okay. We had to I think with the whole like last gen, so PS4, Xbox One, and technically the S, and I that's in the middle thing. You have to break them down into two types of games. You have your Call of Duties, your Fortnites, your games that are going to do well across the board, right? But ever since I would say 2023, we started to see more of a push towards only current gen right now. Again, unless it's Call of Duty, random sport game enter here essentially, and all that stuff. Although actually, that last football game, I believe, that was super popular for a lot of people, that's only on PS5 and Xbox Series X, if I remember correctly.
What sport game?
It's some football game. Like it's like they haven't had like the last. I think it's the NCAA game or whatever.
The EA one.
Yeah. Like it's been a long time since they've released that stuff. But that's only on current gen right now and everything, right? So I think up till 2022, maybe early 2023, I would agree with you on that point, but that's not the case anymore. A lot of it is now just current gen. Again, unless it's your typical live service stuff that's trying to go everywhere. But even some of that live service stuff is not going to last gen. Again, Call of Duty is going to be the exception. But even, I mean, meme it about all you want. Concord only went to current gen. I'm sure Xbox's hero shooter with the card things that they announced at Summer's Game Fest and everything, that's only going current gen. That's not going previous gen, although technically you can play it on there.
I forgot about that.
But, it has to, but you have to do it through streaming and everything, right? So this generation, like, while I personally love my PS5. I like being able to play my PS4 games on there. I can play the PS5 games. I love the current games that came out this generation. Everything from Rebirth to Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, which, yes, I know was on the PS4 and everything. Like, there have been good games. There are been. Anyone saying that it's dead and there's nothing to play, go back and play Apex. We don't care about your opinion. But with everything going up in price right now and everything, when the average consumer is not able to afford this stuff, which I think is the other aspect of it coming in essentially, that's where this all just feels overwhelming, I guess would be the word I want to use, right? You have prices going up everywhere, but we don't see prices increasing but we don't see income increasing for the average person, right? Or in terms of things like other countries, like whether it's Brazil or even Australia, right? Like the exchange rate and how things are priced just makes things extremely expensive. But with the PS5 Pro coming out, at least because it's basically all but confirmed at this point, the Switch 2 next year, global economies and everything, currency exchanges. I know US, you generally have not had to really care about that. Lucky for you guys. But it's going to be an interesting couple of years. So, and we'll have to see where everything goes. My hope is that things would start to level out and become better. But I don't know. Again, without companies there are and economics and all that, I don't expect it to. I really don't. So, exactly.
Alan hates consoles.
Yeah.
I hate consoles, man.
Console hater.
Give me my iPhone. I should be gaming everything on my iPhone.
Yeah. Go back to your gotcha games. Jeez.